Good afternoon. This is the overview video for week 6 of Social Work 636. And the topic this week is management, leadership, and ethics. So to begin with, let's go to the introduction for this week. The overview is that in terms of organizational practice, one of the most difficult aspects is leadership. So this week we will be talking about what makes a good leader and look at different models of leadership. Also discussed will be important aspects of management, including problem solving, managing budgets, employees, and ethical dilemmas in management. So the objectives for this week are to describe the challenges of management, to analyze ethics and ethical dilemmas in leadership and organization management, and to identify and describe the key attributes of leadership. Learning resources, there are a number of learning resources for this week. So in the Brody and Nair book, you are to read chapters 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. There are two helpful videos. One is how to cope within a bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy for large human service organizations is the most common structure. And then Michael Lipsky has a video on street level bureaucrats, so take a look at both of those. There are two activities for this week. The first discussion is around leadership and supervision. So in part 1, you are going to take a leadership inventory, and you will select one of these inventories and complete that inventory. And then in one paragraph, summarize your results, and in the second paragraph, comment on whether the results were consistent with how you see yourself, why or why not. In the next section of that post, you will talk about supervision. So either using your current supervisor or thinking about a past supervisor, answer the following. What different roles have you seen your supervisor play? To what degree has your supervisor successfully played each of those roles? And assess the degree to which your supervisor practiced elements of good supervision. What did they do well, and what areas could they improve upon? And you are going to use chapter 6 in the Brody and Nair book for guidance. The third part is around improving communications and handling conflict. So in 2 or 3 paragraphs after looking at chapter 10 of the Brody and Nair book, reflect on an experience you or someone you know has had related to one of the themes that were outlined in that chapter. For example, you could focus on the time when you or someone else had to deal with a problematic coworker, didn't handle stress well, or were not satisfied about pay scales and raises. Give a brief description of this scenario. How was the situation handled? How well? How not so well? If handled successfully, what made it so? And if not successful, also what made it so? Your initial post is due by Thursday. You are to respond to one of your peers. It can be anyone in the class, so you are now not working with your assigned partners in your groups. You are going to do that initial posting by Thursday and the follow-up between Friday and Monday. The second learning activity for the week is the posting of your final proposal. So in that, you are going to be proposing, and for some reason this is going to keep jumping, but you will see the instructions for the cumulative proposal noted in major assignments, but you're going to submit in the following order: the statement of need, the goals and objectives, the logic model, the program description, the budget narrative, and the program evaluation. Consistency is the key. I've stressed this in many of the comments throughout. So make sure your objectives are consistent throughout, that what you say that you're going to do is reflected in your budget, that it's reflected in your goals. Make sure your theoretical framework is included, your needs assessment. Make sure all of that when you read it is consistent, and also take out all the instructions that were there for each individual piece. Your references now will go at the end of the paper. So any references you've used, they go at the end of the paper, and I encourage you to use references from the classroom readings as well. So this is the major paper. It is 85 points. So please read this paper for consistency throughout so that your proposal hangs together well and it makes sense throughout the whole proposal. So to say a little bit about what's in all these readings for the week, the discussion, I've talked a little bit about leadership already, but all of you should see yourself as leaders, or soon see yourself as leaders as you approach graduation. All of you will be leaders in some capacity. You will either be directors of programs, supervisors in an organization, you'll be team leaders, or you will have your own private practice where you are the sole leader. You need to demonstrate good skills as a leader. One of those skills is hiring skills. Hiring people requires the ability to interview people well, same as interviewing clients in terms of using clinical skills. You have to know what you can and cannot ask in job interviews. For example, don't tell someone that they are overqualified, because often this is an age discrimination factor when you tell people they have too much experience for the job. Don't discuss past salary history, because this may be discriminatory against women because of the differential in salary between men and women. Don't ask people their age, anything about their children, like how will you take care of your children when you get this position. You cannot ask for health issues. Don't ask about actually past felony convictions, because this may or may not disqualify someone for a position. If it's going to disqualify them, it'll come out in the background checks. And just about every job now does a background check, although you need to get permission to check someone's background and also to check references. Verify their degree. It's not good enough when somebody brings you a copy of a degree, because anybody can forge a copy of a degree. And trust me, when I see on resumes, often people will say they're a graduate of thus and so university. That is so easy to check, and people don't realize how easy that is to check. So, good skills are important in hiring and throughout the process. Staff development is another key skill that leaders must have. Providing staff with good training opportunities is important. Meeting consistently with your staff and finding out what motivates them and help them to reach their goals. It is not just about talking to people when there's a problem. We want to also talk to staff when things are going well, and to see how we can motivate them, to see them in other positions or moving up or gaining skills and pushing them to be better than often they think they can be themselves. The readings talk about organizational structure, and it's important to understand the structure of an organization. The bureaucratic organization is fairly common in human service organizations, deals with large numbers of employees and the ability to put the functions of an organization in direct line so someone is always responsible. The reading talks about a market format, which is more entrepreneurial, often used in tech organizations because the function is around assignments that come up and then move out. And so they have to be fluid and flexible. The assignments are based on need. There's the matrix model where the organization is structured by function. And I often talk about wanting organizations to be organized in terms of client centered, that the client is not at the bottom of the organizational chart, but the client is at the top of the organizational chart. And we keep the client is always in focus and always the one that guides everything that we do. A few other things in terms of the readings, that organizations should not be stagnant. They have to be willing to change based on the environment around them. Organizations will change often when there's a new director. That's when the organizational culture changes, and that director will set the organizational culture. How does a leader deal with difficult staff? Well, again, if a leader has good clinical skills, then they will have a better chance of dealing with problematic situations that come up with staff. So supervisors manage using good clinical skills, good listening skills, which is an absolute need for a leader. Whatever happens in terms of disciplinary action, if there has to be disciplinary action, it's not discriminatory. It follows clear policies and procedures. Documentation, just as in client records, is very important, and actions are progressive because ultimately you want there to be some change so an employee can be retained. Supervisors sometimes can help their supervisees with difficult situations by role playing, just as we do in client situations. There are a number of theories in terms of working with staff and being in an organization. So one theory is motivational theory, and that is our goal is to enrich personal growth. McGregor talks about theory X and theory Y, and theory X says that management has to control people and act as a dictator in order for them to do what is required. Theory Y says people will work better if their needs are met. McClellan talks about the need for achievement theory and that organizations need to match individual needs with the needs of the organization. Expectancy theory says that people are motivated, they're influenced by their perception that better performance will bring better rewards, and that is if the rewards hold value. The hygiene motivator theory says that external factors like salary and working conditions are important, but people will work even for a lower salary if their needs are met. This is also like human relations theory. There are a number of theories that say salary is fine, working conditions are fine, all these things are fine, but if you don't meet individuals' needs, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then people still won't stay even when you give them more money. So money is one thing, but it's not all considerations. The readings talked about meetings. Meetings should have agendas, but don't meet if you can get across the information in other forms. If you can email, if you can send memorandums, if you can do short video conferencing, anything, if you don't have to meet, then don't meet because you don't want to waste people's time. But when you have a meeting, there should be an agenda. Most difficult items, the ones that need the most attention should be put at the front of the agenda. And there needs to be a sense of organization that the leader has in order to get the goals of the meeting accomplished. Time management, we all have either had time management courses, we've heard what we need to do with time management. So we don't procrastinate. The hardest things you get done first. You discard what needs to be discarded, take care of what needs to be taken care of, only handle an item once so that you don't procrastinate and don't just shuffle papers around. Other skills that leaders should have, leaders should be honest, not show favorites with any of their staff, be collaborative versus competitive, understand that they are not their supervisee's therapist. So if someone needs that, they refer them elsewhere, but they are concerned, they do listen, and they know the people that they are supervising. They give clear instructions, they sell versus tell, which is something that was brought up in the reading. And again, if supervisors are concerned, if they listen, if they help their supervisees problem solve, show them consideration and respect, people will work for a long time, even when another organization might present a better salary. But if people leave your organization, you want it to be not because they're disgruntled, but because, in fact, they have received a better opportunity and they are going to move up in another organization, and you can wish them well. So with that, I look forward to reading your total proposals that are due by Sunday of week 6. If you have any questions, please get to me as soon as possible. And again, have a wonderful week.